Hey guys, it's Dragon Ball for Life here today, and I'm back with another video. Now, today's video, I want to talk about how to beat characters with phasing abilities or phase shifting abilities, I guess you can call it. Basically, characters who can phase through solid objects and even people sometimes. So I want to talk about how to beat characters on that level of power. Now, before I get into this video, I do want to mention I have created, a Facebook page for my YouTube channel called Dragon Ball for Life. So if you guys have a Facebook, or so I know a lot of you guys might not, but if you do and you want to talk to me or comment with me and go back and forth without having to go through my videos and comment sections, you can go there and do it on there. I have been uploading my videos from my channel onto there. It's going to take quite a while for me to upload all my videos onto there. I'm going to get to a point once when I do get there that I'll possibly upload these videos on there first or whatever. I don't know, maybe like a day or two before. I don't really know, but yeah, I just set this up just for easier access if you guys want to do it. If you don't want to do it, it's fine. If you guys know some people that would want to check out my channel, that's also another great way to do it, because I know that it's kind of hard to find my channel through YouTube. You guys search it up and there's countless other channels and it would just bring up other stuff about Dragon Ball. It's because my YouTube channel is not really that big. And I don't have that many views and stuff. So the more views you get, the more likes you get, the more comments you get, the more subscribers you get, the more viewed you get on the front pages of other people's, devices. And I'm not at that point yet. Hopefully, I will be at one day, but I'm not at there right now. So creating this Facebook page, it will be an easier way to directly go to my videos without you guys having to look through on your front page, or having to type up my name, or having to just subscribe. Because I want you guys to subscribe, but there's some people that might come in that might not have, this is their first time, or they've watched only one of my videos and want to see another one, but they left it and forgot it. Just know that with this video you can go through there. So yeah, I just want to give that brief little explanation for that. Now let's get into how to beat characters with phasing abilities or phase shifting abilities. Now usually this power is quite straightforward. The only real things I can see for difference is how realistic they want to make it. If you want to make it hyper realistic, the ability to phase, the ability of phasing will be far different on how you get to use it compared to we go with the more fictional sense of the phasing abilities. Now what do I mean by this? Now I used to think that phasing was like there's only one type of phasing, and that's what it was shown throughout most comics and stuff, where characters can go through walls and go through anything else and keep their clothes on and then go through people or go inside people and destroy them that way. But after watching, My Hero Academia when it came out, and they had the character Lemillion, he showed to me personally a different way of the power could work. And I never really thought of it this way. I did think of it a little bit, but not completely this way on what it would mean to have those powers. Now, in most fiction, when we see characters with these powers, it's in a more nonsensical, fictional sense where it's not really scientifically accurate or realistic. But when it came to Lemillion, even though he's from a fictional universe, they went to a very hyper-realistic sense of what it would mean to have, the ability to phase. So those are the two different ways. Normally it would have been just, the normal fictional way, but this is another way, and it does change up the use of this ability and how it works. Now, I want to go through Lemillion's version. Some might consider it the weaker version. I guess you can, but it is still quite unique, because the thing about having the ability to phase through solid objects is that in the way that it's portrayed in most fiction, except for really in My Hero Academia, and I don't know if there's any other series or fictional world that does it to this extent, but in those other worlds, when they phase, they can literally, it's weird because they phase and they can see everything, they can hear everything, they can go through solid material, they can stand on solid material somehow, and they can have their clothes on them. Whereas in My Hero Academia, the way it worked was, since he was phasing, that would mean his clothes would pass through him, so he would be naked. Since he would be phasing through matter, that means that he wouldn't be able to see because the light particles wouldn't be reflected in his eyes. It would go through him, like how invisibility refracts the light. This one would just pass through it, and he wouldn't be able to breathe since the air molecules will also go through him. And also he wouldn't be able to stand on the surface because it doesn't make sense. How are you able to phase through a wall but not phase down through the ground that you're standing on. It's like they can select where they phase through, but it's like the only way you could do that is if you like made your feet solid and your top half phase well, and then once we went through the wall you face it's just ridiculous. Obviously it's fiction, so we just let it pass, but My Hero Academia, the way they did it was very realistic because like when he did the phasing ability, one, his clothes didn't stay on him because if he's phasing, then solid materials will pass through him, which that includes that. Light particles wouldn't be able to hit his eyes, so he wouldn't be able to see. Air particles wouldn't be able to reach him, so he wouldn't be able to breathe or even hear. And then since he's also phasing through solid material, he can't just stand on top of a solid object and phase through one. That makes no sense. If you're gonna phase completely. So what he does is, instead of just moving through walls, he sinks all the way down to the floor. So he sinks all the way down to the bottom. He can't breathe. He can't see. He can't speak. He can't hear. And he can't really move freely, and he's completely naked until he got his hair, and they designed his clothes based off of his own body, which was a smart way to do it. And that way he's able to phase. But it's like, well, what's the purpose of it then? If you can't see your opponent, if you can't hear your opponent, if you can't even speak or breathe, you're gonna be a limited amount of your time you can do it. And if you can't even phase to wherever you want, and you're just gonna sink to the bottom, what's the point? Well, the way they showed it is, the way he uses his ability is he sometimes does partial phasing, where he phases partial parts of his body, like I suggested, which is a smart way, but it still leaves the rest of your body still solid. And the other way, the other thing that he does with it, which is his main thing that he does, when he completely phases, he goes away. But what he does is, when he goes back to solid, apparently there's something science-wise that he's non-solid, and in a solid area, it's fine. He will go through it, but when he turns solid, he will get interjected out instantly. So what he does is, when he uses this power, he goes down the ground so they don't know where he is, and as soon as he turns solid, he goes up instantly and jumps in the air, so he can jump up wherever he wants and hit the person, punching them, kicking them, getting behind them. So it's kind of like a sense of like teleportation, but in a different sense. But it's not like the way that we assume phasing will be, like where it's like, I have the ability to phase. That means that no matter what attack you throw at me, it will just pass right through me. I can go through whatever solid object. I can even go into a person and like be, in my phase form. And then once I turn solid, I can grab their heart or intestines or kill them through their insides. And that's far more effective and a different way, but Millions version is more realistic. So now if we talk about the more realistic version, it can be useful, but it's not that useful, because if you're just jumping up and hitting them, the person can literally, if they're durable enough, it won't do damage. And if they are fast enough, just like teleportation, if they know where your patterns are, they can know where you are and attack you or defend and grab onto you and hit you before you can phase again. Or even if he does a partial phasing, he can phase into you, but he still has a solid side, so you just attack the solid part of his body and take him out. So that's pretty easy. But the comic book side, which like I said is more nonsensical, it is actually a lot harder to beat, because now they have basically the perfect defense. Now some people might think invulnerability is a perfect defense, because no matter how much damage you try to unleash on them, you can't hurt them. But like I stated before, with people with that ability, you can use a material that can cut through the smallest possible space in between and cut even people that are invulnerable, or use magic that can do it, or you could suffocate them or poison them. But when it comes to phasing, that won't work, because you can have it where it cuts through the thinnest part, but they are literally phased completely out. So you're just like cutting through air. You're not really cutting anything, and you can't poison them, you can't harm them in any way. So they're basically vulnerable to all damage until they come back to solid form. So if they phase, then they're very dangerous. Now it really depends on how long can they phase. If they can phase for a couple minutes, you can throw a bunch of gas in a room, and if they can't escape in time, they will go solid, and if they go solid, they'll probably be poisoned or knocked out. But it's if they can phase, they can easily get out of the place. But normally that type of phasing is insane, because that is literally what you would consider perfect defense, which in technicality, if you look at reality, there's no such thing as perfect defense. I've proven it. If you have reality warping, that's not a perfect defense. If you have invulnerability, that's not a perfect defense. If you have immortality, that's not a perfect defense. If you have, teleportation or super speed, it's not a perfect defense. This is pretty close to a perfect defense, but it's also a way to beat it. Now you guys are gonna be like, well, how do you beat somebody with, that ability? Well, it really depends on your skill level and your strength level. Now, the person who can phase through it, like I said, they can phase through your attacks and damages. But here's the thing: when they phase through attacks, that's only as a defensive mechanism. When they're going to offense, they need to get solid again. They can't harm you when they're in their phase form. So you're basically in a situation where you can't harm them, but they also can't harm you. So that's like it's kind of a double-edged sword, where it's like, well, I can't hurt them, but they can't hurt me either. But when they get solid at the moment of, impact, or like, let's say they're throwing a punch and they're throwing a punch to their face form, and then once they get back to solid form, then they can hit you with a solid punch and deal damage to you. That way, if they're smart enough and fast enough, they can basically, switch in and out between those two, and basically, go in from like a perfect defense, they can't get hurt, to an offense that they can't really touch. And if they want to be more deadly, they can phase and then put their hand inside your body and then get solidified. And that way they can damage you or kill a person instantly inside their body. So even if they are solid, the person can't do anything. So before getting into that, let's just talk about how to beat somebody who is phasing in and out just for attacks, regular general attacks. What do you do against that? Well, it's simple. You have to be, one, durable enough to take their attack. 2, be smart enough to be able to analyze them, and 3, be fast enough. So let's say you're getting attacked by somebody that's coming in and out, phasing in and out. All you would have to do is basically, time their attack, get the perfect right moment, and also be strong enough to take their attack, but also be fast enough to do a counter. So if they come in for a punch, you already know their timing when they're going to do it, so you just have to time it out with your speed, with your fast reflexes, or just your speed in general. You can intercept them and hit them and knock them, or take them out, or hurt them at least. So they can phase in and out, but they can still be harmed. So they're now in a position that's like, well, I can go in and out, but every time I do it and I come back in, the person's hitting me and knocking me around. So like, what the hell am I supposed to do? It's kind of like with Hit when he was going between, through his pocket dimension and time. If he can get hit while he's going through time, somebody can get hit while they're just phasing through the regular realm of physicality and time itself. So that is like, it's useful, but like I said, if they have the timing, if they're durable enough to take the attacks and they're fast enough, they can react and attack them back and take them out. So that's actually not that hard to beat. But what's hard is the phasing. Now a lot of people use this all the time, where it's like, well, if a character can phase through you, they can kill you. And this is something they usually use for fast characters, like the Flash characters, where they can vibrate their hands and phase into a person's chest, like how Zoom does it. But here's the thing: even though they can do that, there's still safety precautions you can do to protect yourself. One, the character can be very durable, so even if they can't phase through their body, they will be one of those things where like they would, well, there's a couple things. One, you can have an insane high level of durability. We have seen it where there's characters that can phase, but even with their phasing abilities, there's just some people that are so solid that they can't phase into them. And this might not be exactly the same, but there was one where Flash, he was trying to use his vibrating, and he was trying to phase through this one character, but the character had the ability to completely solidify their molecules, so control their molecules and condense it to make their body invulnerable. And he tried to phase through the person, and he basically bounced back out of them, because he can't really phase through somebody who's completely solid and dense. Their matter is completely dense, so it's hard to do that against them. But even if, let's say, they can't phase through that and get into your organs, there's a lot of characters that have been damaged internally and still been able to survive. There's countless characters, especially in anime, we've seen them getting their guts ripped out and all this stuff. That isn't a one instant kill all the time anyway. So let's say they do get into there, they will solidify at that point, and if the character is strong enough or has the ability to live through even serious damages, the person can literally kill them. They're solidified. Okay, now you're stuck. I'm gonna put my hand through your head, or I'm gonna blow your head off, or I'm gonna crush your skull, or I'm gonna rip your heart out. So they're basically putting themselves in a stalemate. So if they're against a person who is durable enough where they can take even internal damage and still survive, which we've seen countless times throughout anime characters, even if they do die, it does take them quite a bit of time before they die. So that person, even though they might have the advantage right there, they basically put themselves in a dangerous situation. So if they're durable enough, super durable, they wouldn't be able to phase through them. If they are durable enough and they can phase through them, then that doesn't instantly kill them all the time. People think if they scramble their brains, they can instantly kill them, which is different because that's super speed because you're vibrating. With phasing, you're just like being like it's like air touching their head, and then it's like solid your hand in their head, which could kill them instantly. But like I said, some of these characters, they can take a lot of serious damage and still kill them back. Another thing is if they have regeneration, even if you can take out their organs or destroyed, they can regenerate those parts. So you can use it, but it wouldn't really matter. If they can regenerate, especially if they have insane levels of regeneration, it won't really affect them. Or if there are characters that, they don't have organs, their organs or their organs don't really matter, it won't really affect them, like Solomon Grundy. You can face through him and rip out his organs, it's not going to affect him. Or you can try to do it to somebody like Kid Buu. That's not going to work on Buu at all. Like, you can face through him, it's like, what? I don't have any organs or any solid materials to rip out. All you'll be doing is ripping out a clump of his body or putting your hand into him, and now you put yourself in the bad position and can get killed. Or people like Cell, who do have organs and stuff, but he can regenerate on a cellular level. So unless you can somehow grab their cell and crush it inside, there's no way you can kill him. So if you crush, Cell's organs and stuff, his ass will still be able to survive it and kill you. So that can also be a very big, dangerous thing to deal with when it comes to somebody like that. Another thing that you can have is if you have a character that's fast enough, they can see the person phasing. So even if they try to phase into them, they can dodge out of it. They can move out of it. So with their speed, even if you can phase into them, and let's say you put your hand into them, they move so fast that time is basically slowed down. So by the time you're able to re-solidify yourself, because it does take time. It doesn't instantly just go intangible and then non-intangible. It does take some time. So like your body will start to solidify, but with their super speed, they can see what's happening, and then they'll move right out of it. So even if you can do that, if they have super speed, they can, perceive what's happening, and they can, react to it and, back out of it. And even if it does work, they can just phase themselves through it too. Because most characters with super speed, if they are able to, move their bodies, they can also phase. So technically, even if you do have that ability, super speed alone can also give you that ability. So even if they're able to get into it, and if you're able to phase through it in time, they might be able to damage you a little, but by you doing that, you'll be able to get out of it before, it gets too dangerous. Or if you have the ability to sense energy, like Ki energy, like in Dragon Ball, or like Spider-Man, where he can, he has a spidey senses going up whenever he's in danger, and they get in a dangerous situation, it doesn't matter because now they have some alarm system in their own, or a detection system where they know where the person is and what they're going to do. So if you do something that dangerous, they will be alert and find a way to, eject themselves out of that situation. Especially if they have super speed, that will also help them out. So phasing abilities, even that ability or technique is very deadly, but there's very many ways to beat it. Like I said, you can be, super durable to the point where you're too solid to pass through. You can be able to be passed through, but you're durable enough to handle it and, kill them while they're doing that. You can have regenerative abilities, especially to an extreme extent, so it won't really matter anyway. Or your organs won't matter at all. Like, you can rip out a person's organs, but that they don't operate on organs or have any. Or you can move so fast that you can phase through it or move out of it before they, are able to fully solidify, or sense their energy and tell what's going to happen, or, have spidey sense to get out of it, or, have those and have super speed on top of it to help you out, to get out of there. And just for attacks, it's basically just being strong enough and fast enough and, timing it out to be like, oh, okay, they hit it right here, they're going to come in here, do this, let me counter it with this way. So yeah, phasing is kind of impressive, but it isn't unbeatable. There's still many ways to beat it. And when we go to not like the fictional version, it is quite powerful. But when you go to the more scientific and realistic version of phasing, it isn't as applicable as you want it to be. Even though Lemillion made it used it pretty decently well in My Hero Academia, his ability is still pretty limited, and against decently powerful characters, it isn't that impressive. It's still pretty good to get out of dangerous situations at times, but it's still not that useful in a fight. So I don't think this ability is too OP, but it is still pretty decently powerful. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for next time.